Hey, hello guys, welcome to the another lecture series on electric charges and electric field. In this video we will discuss questions from NCERT book. All the exercise questions we will take up. Up till last video we have covered all the topics that are important in this chapter, and if you haven't understood any of the topics, you can always go back and watch those videos. I will also leave the link in the description. I have made videos, topic wise videos I have made, so you can find those topic wise link in the description. All right, so let's get started. So the first question here is, the first question says that what is the force between two small charge spheres having a charges of 2 into 10 to the power of minus 7 coulomb and 3 into 10 to the power of minus 7 coulomb placed at 30 centimeter apart in air. You should notice this, they have said that these two charges are kept in air. Alright, so first, in any problem, first write the given data. Okay, so it becomes easy for you to solve problem once you write the given data. So there are two charges, q1 is 2 into 10 to the power of minus 7 coulomb, and the another charge is q2 is 3 into 10 to the power of minus 7 coulomb. So these two charges are separated by what distance? 30 centimeter, right? And where are these two charges are kept? In air medium. So we already know the Coulomb's law. You know that is, if you have two charges q1 and q2 separated by a distance d, then the force between these two charges is given by F is equals to k q1 q2 divided by d square. So that's the formula. This is when two charges are kept in air medium. All right, so now that's all. You just have to make use of this formula. So if you substitute the values, the force between these two charges will be k is 9 into 10 to the power of 9, and q1 q2 it is 2 into 10 to the power of minus 7 multiplied by 3 into 10 to the power of minus 7 whole divided by. Now you should be very careful here. The distance is given in terms of centimeters. Please convert that into meter. So how much that will be? 30 into 10 to the power of minus 2 meters. All right, so now if you substitute d back in this equation, you will get d is 30 into 10 to the power of minus 2 the whole square. Further simplify this, what do you get? You can see the numerator is going to be 9 into 2 into 3 multiplied by 10 power 9, and this 10 power minus 7 into 10 to the power of minus 7 is 10 power minus 14. So 10 power 9 into 10 to the power of minus 14 is 10 power 9 minus 14 whole divided by, in the denominator 30 square is going to be 900 into 10 to the power of minus 2, the whole square is going to be 10 to the power of minus 4. Okay, so now this is 9 ones are 9 hundreds are here. So 100 into 10 to the power of minus 4 will become 10 power minus 2 in the denominator. In the numerator it becomes 6 into 10 to the power of and that becomes 10 power minus 5 divided by 10 power minus 2 in the denominator. When you simplify that, it becomes 10 power minus 3 Newton. So 6 into 10 to the power of minus 3 Newton is the force between these two charges or these two spheres. Okay, so let's now move on to the next question, which is 1.2. all right, so the question number 1.2 says that the electrostatic force on a small sphere of charge 0.4 microcoulomb due to another small sphere of charge minus 0.8 microcoulomb in air is 0.2 Newton. What is the distance between two spheres? That's the first part of the question. Second part of the question is, what is the force on the second sphere due to the first sphere? All right, so now let's start writing the given data. So the given data is we have two spheres q1 of charge q1 and q2. q1 is 0.4 microcoulomb and q2 is minus 0.8 microcoulomb. Okay, so these are the two spheres, and the force between these two spheres is given by 0.2 Newton. Okay, all right, so now the first question is to find out the distance between these two spheres. Okay, now we know that the force between two charges, and we are assuming that these two charges are kept in air medium. Okay, so now the force is given by k q1 q2 divided by d square. Now just substitute all the data. F is given 0.2 Newton. K value we know it is 9 into 10 to the power of 9. Actually, what is K? Well, it is nothing but 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Hope you remember, we have discussed all these things in the um, uh, in the concepts, like when we are discussing, I think in the second video, I guess we have discussed all these things. Okay, if you haven't watched that video, please do watch that video so that you get clarity of what is this K. All right, so it is 9 into 10 to the power of 9, and Q1 is known to us, which is 0.4 microcoulomb. Micro means how much? It is 10 power minus 6. Okay, so write all the when you're substituting any value in the formula, substitute everything in their standard unit. So unit of charge is coulomb, so it is 0.4 into 10 to the power of minus 6 coulomb, because micro is 10 power minus 6, and milli is how much? 10 power minus 3. Nano is 10 power minus 9. Pico is 10 power minus 12. And centi is 10 power minus 2. So, and deci is 10 power minus 1. So you should remember all these values. They are very important, right? And this charge Q2 is minus 0.8 into 10 to the power of minus 6 coulomb. So I'm going to substitute all of them. Here I've already substituted Q1 0.4 into 10 to the power of minus 6. Now when I'm substituting Q2, always you're going to substitute only the magnitude. Never ever substitute along with the signs. No, don't do that mistake. The charge Q2 is negative, but I don't want the sign. This sign, negative sign and the positive sign, indicate these two charges attract each other. They are unlike charges, they will attract each other. Like Q1 and Q2 will attract each other. So that negative sign or the positive sign will help us to understand whether there's going to be an attractive force or a repulsive force. That is not going to be of any use while solving the problem. Okay, you don't have to substitute that negative sign in the formula, you just have to consider only the magnitude. So the magnitude of Q2 is 0.8 into 10 to the power of minus 6 whole divided by, we don't know the distance, so distance square is in the denominator, so we need to find out what is the distance. So distance square now can be written as, I'll just take this to LHS, and in the numerator you can actually cancel out here 0.2 into 2 will give you 0.4. Okay, 0.2 into 2 is 0.4, that will get cancelled. The remaining thing in the RHS is 9 into 2 into 0.8, 9 into 2 into 0.8, and the remaining thing is 10 power 9 minus 6 minus 6. So 9 minus 6 is 3, 3 minus 6 is minus 3. So basically I'm going to get 9 into, this will become what? 0.8 into 2 will be 1.6 into 10 to the power of, this will be minus 3, right? 10 power minus 3. Okay, so now I have d square in the LHS. I want a d, right? So you have to take a square root. So d square further can be written as 9 into this 1.6. Can I write it as 16 into 10 power minus 1? 1.6 can be written as 16 into 10 to the power of minus 1, and I already have 10 power minus 3 into 10 power minus 3. I should write as it is. 10 power minus 1 into 10 to the power of minus 3 will become 10 power minus 4. So directly I'll write this as 10 power minus 4. 10 power minus 4. And now if you're taking a square root on both sides, or d will become square root of 9 into 16 into this 10 to the power of minus 4. I'm going to write as 10 to the power of minus 2 the whole square. Okay, and then what do we get? This root 9 is nothing but 3, and root 16 is 4, and 10 to the power of minus 2 the whole square, and square root of that will be again 10 to the power of minus 2, because this square and square root will get cancelled. So basically I get it as 12 into 10 to the power of minus 2 meters, which is nothing but 12 centimeter, because 10 power minus 2 is nothing but centi. So this is the distance between these two spheres. Okay, so easy to solve. And the second part of the question, what they're asking is, what is the force on the second sphere due to the first sphere? See, while discussing the concepts, I've already told the force on the first charge due to the second charge is same as force on the second charge due to first charge, because these are mutual forces. Mutual forces will always be equal in magnitude, remember that. So answer for the second part of the question is very simple. Force on the first charge due to the second charge is same as force on the second charge due to the first charge, and that will be equal to, how much is the force they have already given? 0.2 Newton. Okay, so that will be 0.2 Newton itself. Okay, so that's the answer for the second question. And now we'll move on to third question. So the third question says, question number 3, it says that check that the ratio Ke square divided by G me into mp, me is mass of the electron, mp is the mass of the proton, is dimensionless. So we have to check whether this ke square divided by g me square p square is dimensionless quantity or not. Okay, so remember, force between two charges, okay, force between charges is nothing but k, or we will do like this. Let's say we have mass, we have a proton here, okay, and we have a electron here, okay. So mass of the proton is mp, mass of the electron is me, charge of the proton is plus e, charge of the electron is minus e, okay. Now between these two particles there will be electrostatic force, because they carry charge, they will attract each other. At the same time, between these two charges there will also be a gravitational force. Gravitational force will be there moment you say there are two masses, okay. Moment you have a mass, there will be a gravitational force between the two masses, right? This you have studied in the 11th standard, okay, gravitation chapter, and while doing the concept also I have explained that. So the electrostatic force of attraction between two charges very much similar to gravitational force of attraction between two masses, okay. So anyway, now let me write the force between two charges. Let me write it as force between two charges. I'll just write it as F suffix charge, that will be k into charge of the proton into charge of the electron. I'm not substituting negative sign again, be careful, I'm just considering only the magnitude of the charge, divided by, let us say, the distance between these two charges, d, okay. So the in the denominator you're going to have d square. Now the force between these two the gravitational force between these two particles, maybe I'll write as F suffix gravity, and that will be nothing but g into mass of the proton into mass of the electron divided by d square, correct. Now this, both the quantities here are forces only, correct. Now both are forces only, but one is electrostatic force and the other one is gravitational force. And what are they asking? We have to check that the ratio ke square by gme into mp is dimensionless. We have to check whether ke square by m g into mp me is dimensionless or not. And this is nothing but ke square divided by d square, okay, and this is just as it is. Now take the ratio, okay, maybe I can call this as equation 1 and this is equation 2, okay. So when you take the ratio equation 1 divided by equation 2, if you do, you will get force between two charges divided by force between two particles, gravitational force between two particles will be ke square by d square whole divided by g into mass of the proton into mass of the electron divided by d square. So d square will get cancelled, okay. Now don't you see, in the LHS both are, the ratio is between the force, so that means the units will get cancelled. So LHS has no unit, LHS has no unit, so therefore the RHS ke square divided by the remaining thing, d square anyway gets cancelled. The remaining thing is ke square divided by g into mass of the proton into mass of the electron, also do not have any unit, okay. So this implies ke square divided by gme mp is dimensionless. No unit means no dimension as well, right? Okay, it is dimensionless. All right, so that is the answer for the first part of the question. And what is second part of the question? They're asking, look up a table of physical constants and determine the value of the ratio. What does this ratio signify? This ratio signifies the ratio of force between ratio of electrostatic force between these two particles to the gravitational force between these two particles. That is what it signifies, okay. The ratio signifies that. And now we will have to find out, substitute all the values and find out how much is that ratio, okay. So that is, if you look at the table, the value of k is 9 into 10 to the power of 9, and E is nothing but 1.6 basic charge, right? 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulomb, and the universal gravitational constant is 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square, and mass of the electron is 9.1 into 10 to the power of minus 34, sorry, 10 to the power minus 31, 10 to the power of minus 31 kg, and mass of the proton is 1.67 into 10 to the power of minus 27 kg. So you will have to substitute all these values in this and you will have to get the answer. I'm not doing that, you can do that anyway. I have given all the values here, just substitute here. And it's better if you can remember these values, because every time you may not be provided with the table. Since here you have a table, you can go back and check in the textbook you have a table from where you can get these values. Alright, so I remember it, so I directly wrote it here. So now we will move to the next question, which is question number 1.4. It says that 1.4, it says that explain the meaning of the statement electric charge of a body is quantized. What do you mean by quantization of a charge? It means the total charge of a body is a integral multiple of basic charge. It just means if I say the total charge of a body, I'm writing it as q net, that must be an integral multiple of basic charge. So it means quantization means, let me write here, quantization means you can even write S or Z, doesn't matter. So quantization means that total charge is an integral multiple of basic charge. Integral multiple of basic charge. See, I cannot have 1 point times the basic charge. A charge of a body cannot be 1.5 times the basic charge, because you cannot remove 1.5 electrons. You can remove 1 electron, or you can remove 2 electron, or you can remove 3 electron. You cannot remove 1.5 electron, right? Is there any meaning in that? Can you remove half electron from it? No. Like, because electron is one single particle, you can either remove it, you cannot remove half of the electron. There is no meaning in that, right? So it's not possible also. So therefore the total charge of a body is always the integral multiple of basic charge. That is the meaning of quantization. Okay. And now the second part of the question says explain not that where is it? Yeah. So why can one ignore quantization of electric charge when dealing with macroscopic, that is large scale charges? Okay. So what is that? It says that we need to say why we can neglect the quantization of charge when we are dealing with a huge charge, macroscopic charge. Macroscopic charge means it's very huge. Okay. So for example, let me explain that with a small example. Let us say how many number of electrons will contribute to 1 coulomb of charge. Okay. I know 1 electron's charge is 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulomb. Now I want to know 1 coulomb of charge will be contributed by how many number of electrons. Okay. How many, let's say n number of electrons will give you 1 coulomb of charge. Okay. So now you just cross multiply it. So 1 must be equal to n into 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19. Okay. So then you will get n is equals to 1 divided by 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 electrons. So if you simplify this, you will get a 0.625 into 10 to the power of 19 electrons, and that's nothing but 6.25 into 10 to the power of 18 electrons. Okay, these many number of electrons will give you 1 coulomb. Now in this, if you remove 1 or 2 electrons, it doesn't matter, because the charge is very small. The charge of an electron is very small. So in these many number of electrons, if you remove 1 or 2 charges, it will be approximately equal to 1 coulomb only, right? So therefore, when we are talking about a macroscopic charge, we don't consider quantization, because the charge of electron is very small compared to a macroscopic huge charge. Okay? So therefore, we don't have to worry about the quantization. So that means what I'm trying to say is, to get 1 coulomb of charge, you need to have these many number of electrons. Even if you have 1 or 2 electrons lesser than this, still the charge will be approximately 1 coulomb itself. Okay, so that is the meaning of this. So the answer is very simple. since the charge of electron is very small compared to a macroscopic charge, the quantization can be neglected. Okay, so that is the answer. Now we'll move to the next question. Question number 4. Fourth question we did. Yeah, question number 5, 1.5. So it says that when a glass rod is rubbed with a silk cloth, charges appear on both. A similar phenomena is observed with many other pair of bodies. Explain how this observation is consistent with the law of conservation of charge. What is law of conservation of charge? Just means you cannot destroy a charge. Okay, you cannot create a charge, but charge can be transferred from one body to another body. So this is nothing but charging a body by a method of friction. You remember there are 3 methods of charging a body. What are those methods? Charging by conduction, charging by friction, charging by induction. Okay, so we are talking about charging a body by friction. So when you rub 2 bodies, electron from one body will get transferred to the another body. Okay, so here you have not created any charge, you have not destroyed any charge, you just transferred the charge from one body to another body. That's it. So the explanation here is, when two bodies are rubbed, when two bodies are rubbed, comma, the electrons from one body goes into another body. Okay, so whatever is the number of electrons that the body loses, the same number of electron goes to the another body. So here, so therefore no charge is being created, no charge is being destroyed. So therefore no charge is being created, or no charge is being destroyed. No charge is being destroyed. Okay, that's it. That's your conservation. All right, so now we'll move on to the next question, which is 1.6. It says that similar to this 1.6 problem we have already solved in the when we are covering the topics or when we are covering the concepts. Let's see what is this question is all about. So the question 1.6 says 4 point charges QA, QB, QC and QD are located at the corners of a square of side 10 centimeter. What is the force on 1 coulomb charge placed at the center of the square? Okay, so let us draw the diagram and try to understand this. 2 microcoulomb and minus 5 microcoulomb and 2 microcoulomb and minus 5 microcoulomb. Okay, and now they're asking how much will be the force on the charge which is kept exactly in the middle. Okay, so middle is nothing but the point of intersection of diagonals in our case, the center. Okay, so there we are keeping how much charge? We are keeping 1 microcoulomb of charge. Here we are keeping 1 microcoulomb of charge. And how much will be the force on this? So, and they've said that the side is 10 centimeter. Okay, all right. Now without even solving anything directly, you can say the force on this 1 microcoulomb is going to be 0. Why? Remember the topic that we discussed while discussing the theory. There I've told, whenever you see the charges on the diagonals are equal in magnitude and having same sign, then the electrical field due to those two will cancel out. Okay, so here you can see this 2 microcoulomb will try to ripple this 1 microcoulomb radially outwards in this direction, and this 2 microcoulomb also will ripple this 1 microcoulomb in the radially outward direction. So these two forces will cancel out. Okay, similarly this 1 microcoulomb will be attracted by this minus 5 microcoulomb towards it. This 1 microcoulomb will again be attracted by this minus 5 microcoulomb. So therefore the net force on this charge will become 0. So directly I'm going to write, since the charges on the diagonally opposite corners are equal like charges Therefore net force on 1 microcoulomb at the center is 0. Okay, directly I can say that. Alright, so now we'll move on to the next question, which is question number 1.7. So the question number 1.7 in that sub-question A says that an electrostatic field line is a continuous curve. That is, field line cannot have sudden breaks. Why not? See, electric field lines generally represents what? Force experienced by a charge. Okay, unit charge. Now, in a electric field region, suddenly the force on the charge cannot become 0, right? Because in electric field region, if a charge, 1 unit charge is kept, so it'll move in the direction of electric field. If it is a 1 unit positive charge, it will move in the direction of electric field, and it will continuously move. It's not that at one point it stops, suddenly it appears at the other point and moves. No, because electric field lines represents what? The direction of force experienced by this 1 unit charge at every point. Okay, so it cannot have a sudden break. The electric field lines cannot have a sudden break because that 1 unit charge cannot suddenly experience a 0 force and then start experiencing a force. Okay, it's a continuous curve always. So that's the explanation. So we're just going to write answer for the sub question A is because electrical field lines are nothing but trajectory of motion of 1 unit positive charge. 1 unit positive charge. 1 unit positive charge. So suddenly it cannot vanish at one point and appear at the another point, because electric field line represents what it is. It's a trajectory of the path, like in whichever direction the charge experiences force, in that direction it will move. Okay, and the path that it traces is nothing but the electrical field line. Okay, so electrical field lines are not continuous because the trajectory of motion of 1 unit charge, 1 unit positive charge, cannot have a break suddenly. Cannot have a break suddenly and start at another point and moving, and start at some other point and start at some other point. Okay, so that is your answer for the sub question A. And sub question B is what? Explain why two field lines never cross each other at any point. Why don't two electrical field lines cross each other? That's because if electrical field lines are crossing each other at any point, the charge cannot have two directions of motion simultaneously, correct? Because electrical field line gives you what? The direction of force experienced by the unit charge. Now if two electrical field lines are crossing each other, then this charge cannot move in two different directions simultaneously, correct? So that's the reason. So therefore two electrical field lines do not cross each other, because a charge cannot have two directions of motion simultaneously. Okay, it cannot have two direction of motion simultaneously. So a charge cannot move in two different paths simultaneously. So therefore you cannot have two electrical field lines crossing each other. Okay, so that is the answer for this question. Alright, so that's all for this video. We will continue rest of the things in the next video. Till then, stay tuned and have happy learning. Thank you all. Bye bye.